learning new technology really isn't that bad if you have the right process and the right mindset going into it. Now, if there's something I always say, it's that everything is a skill. Whether it's getting better at sprinting or getting better at learning how to coach sprinting, whether it's learning new technology or learning how to learn new technology, it's a process, it's a skill, and it's something that you can get better at. My name is Matt Tomats, and I'm here to take you through the third video of my video series, 5-Minute Sports Science. This video all about how to learn new technology. I like to think I've done this a lot thus far in my career as a professional, just learning new technology from the Polar Team Pro heart monitors to the 1080 Sprint, Fusion Smart Speed timers, Microsoft Excel, TeamBuilder, to even learning how to make and edit videos as a freelance videographer and YouTuber, to now most recently the NordBoard from Valve Performance. So there's this process, 4-step process, that I've gone through a lot that I'm excited to share with you. It's daunting, I know. It literally happens every time when I get this new piece of technology and I think, oh my gosh, how on earth am I ever gonna feel comfortable, learn how to do this? This is gonna be so hard. Trust me, I've been there many, many times. But going through this process so much, I feel much more comfortable just going through from beginning to feeling proficient to being proficient at it. So here's my 4 steps, and I'll take you through a full example, kind of working through those 4 steps of how I learned the NordBoard after. Step number 1, what is the point and goal of having and learning this new technology? So basically, what is the context of going through this process? What is the end goal? So if you have this end goal of what's the point in mind, you can then work backwards to figure out what steps you'll want to learn along the way, what questions you'll have, and it'll just guide your overall process. Step number 2, make a list of questions. There's things you want to know, so write them down. You have this end goal in mind from step 1, now you have to figure out how to get to that end goal, and that's through learning and asking questions. By having all of your questions in line, it'll help justify and guide learning from others, because teaching about X technology is completely different than saying, I have X technology and I want to learn about X, Y, and Z specifically about it. 2A and B is that you'll have your own specific questions just for your own situation, as well as just you doing it yourself and coming up with your own questions as you go, as well as 2B being that there's going to be these stock questions that you'll ask pretty much for every technology that you learn, from what are your standard protocols, what are the main numbers you're looking for, what are ranges of good, bad, high, low, how do you describe these numbers to your athletes, and so on. So by having these questions specifically to you and in general, it'll help organize your thoughts and guide discussions when you're going through this process. Step number 3, hop on it yourself. Go in and dive in head first. I'll give a quick example of how I learned the 1080 Sprint. So I walk into work one day, there's this new expensive fancy piece of technology. It spits out power, force, time, and velocity of all of these sprints. It can resist you, it can assist you. There's this tablet with all these buttons, and I just think, how on earth am I ever gonna learn this, do this with all these athletes and stuff like that? And all I did was 3 sprint workouts, not even workouts, just 3 sessions of just me sprinting, messing with the tablet, seeing what it spits out. And I just felt so much more comfortable. And this is really a win-win, because you can mess up on yourself, you're your own guinea pig, as opposed to trial and error on your athletes first, as well as it's just gonna stick because you're doing it yourself firsthand. And it's a win-win-win, because also going into step 1 and 2, if you know why you're experimenting and why you're trying to learn it, and you're doing it firsthand, some questions will also just appear as you go and do. So all these steps go together, but you have to go and do yourself first. Step number 4, learn from others. And how do you do that? You ask. You can go on social media, you can go on people in your network, people in your own company, people from that company that they should connect you with. And it's intimidating putting yourself out there, admitting that you're not proficient, that you feel uncomfortable with a certain technology. But there's things that you can only learn by going and doing, things you just learn with time. So you can either spend all of that time doing it all yourself, or you can just ask others who've already been there, done that. So it's an excuse to connect with people, to network, as well as you're accelerating your learning curve by not doing it all yourself. You can trial and error and learn and fail all on your own, which will take a lot of time, or ask people who have already done that. So put yourself out there, ask and learn from others. Now the full 4-step process with a real example of how I learned the NordBoard from Valve Performance. First, I got it where I coach at TC Boost Sports Performance, a 2-month rental period for our NFL Combine training. So with this in mind, of us having these athletes, very elite, for 8-9 weeks, training specifically for the NFL Combine, football players, and how does it fit in our training? How does it make our training better? As well as having conversations with my boss, like, why did you feel this technology was worth investing in for our NFL Combine training? So not only me creating this context from my own thoughts, but also asking others what they think their context is, the people that are gonna actually be using it. Next, I'm actually gonna combine steps 2, 3, and 4 because they kind of all go together. So first, I hopped on the technology myself. I had the iPad going through the different settings. I was trying to administer it on myself, administer it on others, see what numbers it spit out for myself and others, as well as going on the website to see how the data was stored, how to pull it up, what it exports to Excel. So kind of as I was going through this whole process, there were things where I just messed around with a few different protocols, just didn't really know, but I knew that I had things in my back pocket to then ask. And then I also made a list of questions of the stock questions, what are the protocols, main numbers you look at, how you describe it to athletes, as well as the specific ones that I got from my experimentation. And one, for example, is that it spits out force, torque, and impulse. And whenever I communicated with people, they'd never really mentioned those two metrics, torque and impulse. They only talked about force. So that was a question that I had, is like, why are those worth spitting out on the Excel data? And then asking people, learning from others, I sent a tweet out, hey, coaches, I'd love to learn if you guys have this technology. I asked someone from the company just to hop on the phone, and then he gave me someone else's contact. So I'm going to talk with 2 people from that company, as well as, you know, LinkedIn, your network, people you know that already have it. And it's funny, when I tweeted it out, a few people liked it, and I just sent them a DM, and I was like, so this means you have one. Some people that I knew and some people that I didn't know. So putting myself out there, and then also kind of backtracking on how this all goes together, I already had a way better basis for discussion and asking questions because I'd done it myself. I wasn't starting with square one. You know, it's a lot easier to go through these conversations with people when I already know the settings, some of the, I guess, like slang of the technology. So we're not starting at square one in these conversations. So these steps all go together if you know why you're doing it, if you've done it yourself so you're familiar with it, if you have a list of questions to help guide on what you specifically want to know, and it'll make the conversations that much more beneficial and efficient, and then just putting yourself out there and asking. So hopefully going through some of those examples firsthand help with just, you know, that example and kind of helping wrap your head around it. So that's 5-minute sports science. I'm sure this is going to be longer than 5 minutes because I gave an example, but happy sports sciencing, good luck. You're going to get better at it. It's a skill.